All right, welcome everybody to week 12, day 2. Your midterm is going to be on Friday, 2 days from now. It'll work the same way as the last one. It'll start, the window for the midterm will start after class, and it will go until the beginning of class on Monday. And you can take the midterm anytime in that time period, and it's up to you when to schedule it for yourself. Just don't schedule it at the very last minute, because that 10 a.m. on Monday is a hard cutoff. If you try taking it at like 9:50 in the morning on Monday, you'll have 10 minutes to do the midterm. And no, I'm not, like, I'm in general pretty easygoing about those things, but yeah, if you forget to take the midterm, it's kind of like, don't. You know what I mean? Like, don't forget. Epic speed running music, yeah. It's kind of like when I took the SAT. I finished early on one of the, there's different sections. I finished a section early, so I'm like, I'm just gonna go to sleep. I'm tired. So I just like put my head down and slept for an hour or so, whatever. And then they're like 5 minutes remaining, so I'm like, all right, I should probably double check my answers or something, And I found out that 2 of the pages had stuck together, and then there's like 30 questions or something that I skipped, and I went, oh no, oh dear, and very, very hurriedly filled in the questions. That was speed running test time. Forgot to attend your Friday mandatory lectures for another class. Yeah. Mario Kart Rainbow Road. Yeah, it's funny. Okay, so. We're going to go over the midterm. Basically, I've put up a sample midterm, and the caveat to that is that every semester I teach this, it goes a little bit differently, right? There's no, like, I've got a bunch of topics that I cover, but also what we talk about depends on what's happening in the world. For example, this happened. We've been talking about the algorithm in Facebook and YouTube and things like that, where the algorithm shapes the experience that you have on the websites, and now Congress is apparently going to try to ban that, or at least give people the option of having an algorithm-free version of websites. So rather than it filtering and selecting things that heat is really obnoxious. Let's just not do that. You could turn it off, right? And maybe go back to maybe the Congress people wanted the old version of Facebook as well, where it would just show you what your friends are doing and not suggest new groups to join and things like that. Okay, so yeah, my point is that if you see things on the sample midterms, because I post all of the previous midterms as sample midterms, and you can take them at your leisure. We'll go through one of them right now, in fact. If there's a topic on there that we haven't covered, then don't panic, don't worry about it, don't study it, because this class is different every semester. And so I will only test you on the things that we've talked about. So we certainly can test you on parasocial. I always want to say parasocial networking because of social networks, and stuff like that. But parasocial relationships, like that's fair game because we've talked about it. But I don't think we've done set theory in this class, which we'll have to address probably next week. So if you see questions for set theory on the sample midterms, just ignore them because we haven't covered it. Okay, you guys understand? So if you're looking at the sample midterms and there's a topic on there we haven't covered, don't be like, Where are they? They're on Canvas. So I've posted one of them. I kind of went through a couple of them last night and posted the one that was close to what we've covered this semester. Another one is like half set theory problems, and I'm like, man, my students are going to like freaking panic, I don't know how to do any of these. Yeah. So I could put it up because it does have good questions on it, but this, I guess. It appears on here. No free point time related to spending $3,000 on here. I usually do some sort of extra credit on it. So let's take this one together. Let's do this. All right. From The Lord of the Rings. Which king of Angmar? No living man may hinder me. Eowyn. But no living man am I. You look upon a woman. What fallacy was taking place here? For example, the last question on this one was, what difficulty did I try targeting this midterm at? Because I told them during last semester that I was going to set the difficulty at a certain number, and I just wanted to see how many people were paying attention to it. So which fallacy is this? Black and white means... I don't know how much we talked about black and white fallacy, but basically everything must either be one thing or another. Equivocation is when you use the same word in multiple meanings. Appeal to consequences is, no, that can't be true because it would make me sad if it was true. Or it would, it'd be really bad if global warming was true, so it can't be true. You have to remember stuff I said before? Yeah. Yeah, all of the tests in this class are comprehensive. Why? Because it doesn't give your brain an excuse to forget things that I said. Okay. So, when your brain knows it doesn't need something, it throws it away. This is equivocation. No living man may hinder me, but no living man am I. I'm a woman. So he's using it as in terms of human, right? No human may hinder me. And she says, it's like between a man or a woman. Okay. Trump, I was the best president. Everyone says so. Which is this? Ad populum, yep. That is correct, Twitter. So, yeah, everyone says that Old Spice is the best. Therefore, it's true. Yeah. Okay. Although in the case of if you're making a claim of popularity, then actually, yeah, ad populum is not a fallacy in that case. McDonald's has America's most popular fries. It's arguably true. Just on sheer numbers, not on quality. People with privilege don't know what it's like to suffer. Yeah, that's a... You're gonna have a whole lecture on that. Privilege is... yeah, so... This one is black and white thinking. And I'll just give that to you because we'll probably talk a little bit more about it today. So black and white thinking means it must all be one thing or all another. So either you're privileged or you're not. And if you're privileged, you don't know what it's like to suffer. And that's a real quote, by the way. And so you're either from a disadvantaged, non-privileged group, or you're from a privileged group, everything's great for you. You're from a non-privileged group, everything's horrible for you. Black and white thinking. It's all or nothing. Okay? We'll talk more about this today. We've already invested $5 billion into high-speed rail, so we might as well continue building it. What is the thing going on here? Sunk cost, yes. Right? I've already repaired my car 30 times. I'm not selling it now. Even though it's going to require 30 more repairs over the next year. Dang it. I've invested so much time and money in this horrible car. I'm just going to stick with it. So, we don't know what caused the universe. We don't know what caused the universe, therefore God did it. I don't understand X, therefore Y. is most definitely an appeal to ignorance. The Democrat Party supports teachers' union. You are a Democrat. Therefore, you must support the teachers' union. Should probably close that closet, huh? There. Looks more tidy now. The command to pause the recording is the same as to open a private window in Firefox, which is a bit annoying. The Democratic Party supports teachers' union. So there's a group that supports teachers' union. You are a member of that group. Therefore, what's true of the group must be true of you. What do you think? Fallacy division. That is correct. If you want to be right on the issues, you should pick the center point between... Oh, we haven't talked about this one, actually. If you're going to be right in the issues, you should pick the center point between Democrats and Republicans every time. So this is called appeal to moderation. And it's probably the fallacy I'm most guilty of. Simply because I talk to people from every political background, and a lot of times, yeah, people can make a good case for their beliefs, you know. Very rarely on like a major debate, you know, are you just like, no, that's just totally wrong, you know. There's usually some aspect of what they're talking about that's true. Like, you know, there's a lot of negative things you can say about critical race theory, right? Like there are times where they do like black and white thinking, like all members of this group are horrible, all members of this group are good, you know. But like when you actually talk to the people that, you know, teach it, they're like, well, you know, what we're trying to do is teach the untaught history of America, you know. And that's, you know, whether or not that's actually what's happening, like that's their stance, you know. And so I personally can kind of see things from, okay, I get what you're saying there, you know. And so I'm often guilty of appeal to moderation, just because, like, yeah, okay, let's try to find a common ground, a common solution to these issues. You know? So that's appeal to moderation. Appeal to moderation is like when you split the difference. Like person A says we should murder 10 people, and person B is like, no, murdering is wrong. And then appeal to moderation would be like, all right, let's just kill 5 people. Right? Like sometimes the moderate stance is not the right one, you know, ethically or logically. Right? So, suppose Bob tells you truthfully that you're failing. Well, that one we haven't gone over. So, okay. Suppose Bob tells you truthfully that whenever he prepares a talk on Irish music, he listens to Irish music. He is listening to Irish music right now. Is he preparing a talk on Irish music? So X implies Y. Y, therefore X. X implies Y. Y is true. It's always helpful to think of these things in terms of logic, right? So X implies Y. X is this. Y is this. Y is true. Is X true? And the answer is maybe. Maybe. He might be. So it's a fallacy. It's affirming the consequent fallacy, right? So every time I drink water, I get hydrated. I'm hydrated right now. Am I drinking water right now? Well, maybe. Maybe I am, right? Or maybe I'm drinking, you know, maybe I'm drinking coffee. So, but I got water too. Just because something is a fallacy doesn't mean that, you know, I couldn't be drinking water. Yeah, it's maybe. So is it a fallacy? Yeah, it is. But just because it's a fallacy, like, if every time it rains, I bring an umbrella to school. You see me with an umbrella at school. Is it raining? Well, maybe. Because if it was raining, I'd bring an umbrella, but, you know, maybe I'm bringing an umbrella to keep the sun off. Okay. Suppose Bob tells you now that every time he listens to a CSI 1 lecture online, he learns something new. Which is hopefully true for all of you. Even if it's just memes or something. Finally gives the answer of might. He might not. Your favorite answer. Maybe he's going to mess you up. So every time he listens to CSI 1, he learns something new. X implies Y. Not X. Therefore, is Y true? So every time he listens to CSI 1, he learns something new. He's not listening to CSI 1 right now. Is he learning something new? That's also maybe, because it's also a fallacy. It's denying the antecedent fallacy. X implies Y, not X. Therefore, not Y is a denying the antecedent fallacy. Now, he could be in a different class. He could be in calculus, right? He could be in PE, learning some jiu-jitsu, the crucifix position or whatever, in jiu-jitsu. He could be. And just because he's not in my class doesn't mean he's not learning something new. Okay. When it's a fallacy, it's a maybe. Not always. Yeah, maybe. Suppose Michael tells you truthfully that every time he plays a game of Dune, a board game, oh, look at that. Yeah, he loses. So Michael tells you every time he plays Dune, he loses. X implies Y. Last night he won a board game. Was the board game he played Dune? Every single time he's ever played Dune, he lost. But he tells you last night, hey man, I won a board game last night. He didn't tell you which game it was. Was it Dune? No. And that's modus tollens. X implies Y, not Y, therefore not X. So if you're like, wow, there's a lot of fallacies in logic on the midterms, yes, that's the main thing you need to be studying. There will be questions on like the social issues in computer science and Scratch and things like that. Just a few points. Okay. The big thing is recognizing fallacies, truth tables, logic, things like that. That's always the majority of the questions on my midterms. Okay. Suppose Pablo tells you truthfully every time he plays a game of Dune, he tries to ally me, which is absolutely true. He certainly does. Last night we played a game of Dune. Did he try to ally me? Every time we play Dune, he tries to ally me. Last night we tried to play Dune. Did he try to ally me? Yes. Yeah, every time. Every time it happens. He's not lying to you. I'm telling you, he's not lying to you. Every time that he's played Dune, he has tried to ally me. Last night he played Dune. There. This is modus ponens. X implies Y, X, therefore Y. Does that mean we're going to get destroyed by Kearney? It doesn't say anything about how good I am. It's just that Pablo always tries to ally me whenever we play Dune. If you win, you get an and in the midterm. Simplify this Boolean expression. X anded with Y, ORed with X anded with Y. So X and Y is true, or X and Y is true. How would you simplify that? X and Y. And I'm putting you on the spot, but yeah, these are redundant, right? X and Y, either X and Y is true or X and Y is true. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. You can throw out the redundancy. The left side and the right side of the OR is exactly the same. So if you did a truth table, you could see that. If X is true, Y is true, and Z is false, what is the truth value of this? So X is true, Y is true, Z is false. X is true, Y is true, Z is false. What? Got a 50-50 on this. Hopefully better than 50-50. Remember the rules. For or, if either side is true, the total result is true. For and, both sides have to be true for the result to be true. So y ANDed with z is false, but it doesn't matter because x is true. If x is true, then the or statement is going to be true. In fact, I could have just said y and z could be anything. Doesn't matter what y and z were because x is true. So that's a true statement. We haven't talked about Kuhn, the nature of scientific revolutions yet, and things like that. We haven't talked about the replication crisis yet. We haven't talked about pseudoscience yet. Okay. So USC recently, this was last semester, bought ads pretending to hire drivers for Domino's and Instacart. Instacart, they're both delivery services, right? Domino's, though, preferentially hires men for whatever reason, and Instacart preferentially hires women for whatever reason. And they found that despite them not choosing to target men and choosing to target women, Facebook sent more Domino ads to men, and Instacart sent more, Facebook sent more Instacart ads to women. What is this an example of? Al Gore, right? The algorithmic bias, right? And so you could speculate why it's doing that, right? Like more men follow Domino's or something. But the upshot is, Facebook discriminated against people. So, all right. Last Monday, true story. YouTube took down one of my lectures. I told you guys about this semester. So they took down one of my lectures and said it was removed for violating some rule. They didn't say which rule. Didn't provide a reason. Just said I can't appeal it. So this had an impact. Students were trying to take the quiz and the lecture goes down because it just deleted it randomly. So what is this an example of? Yeah, this is corporate censorship, right? It's not illegal for them to do that. It's not illegal for them to take it down. It's their website. They have the right to do whatever they want with it, I guess. But, yeah, certainly sucked. Certainly was not justified, right? There's nothing objectionable at all in the video. In fact, when I re-uploaded it, it's still up there today. So whatever process they used to flag videos, just flagged it randomly or something and just removed it. So, how many questions will there be on the midterm? Around 30. Around 30. Yep. Or 100 if, yeah. Okay, fine. Joanna, you've convinced me. All right. Do 100. Take out your classmates. Eliminate the competition. All right. Sam Harris says that science can determine which choices are healthier for us, and therefore, since being healthy is good, science can determine morality. Okay. So Sam Harris believes that science can determine morality because science can determine which of two options you might want to do will result in your health increasing more. And since health is the same thing as good, then science can determine morality. So what moral system is Sam Harris using there? You're in this lecture, but we will no longer grant you the rank of council member. Yeah, this is utilitarianism, right? Specifically, some form of moral hedonism, right? Where good is defined as pleasure, but remember, pleasure isn't like, people think of like shooting up heroin. Oh, that's pleasure. or sex, that's pleasure. Now, pleasure in the context of moral hedonism is a bunch of sort of related concepts, bodily health being one of them, and that's what Sam Harris focuses on because it's something that's kind of quantifiable, right? You can measure the lifespan of like different choices, So if you lock somebody in a room and force them to exercise and eat broccoli and stuff, they'll live longer, and so that's moral, right? Somehow. I am dictator of this lecture. Do you want to write the midterm, Joanna? 100 questions. I don't want to write 100 questions. All right, yeah. Send me some questions. I'll see if I can put them into the midterm or not, if they're usable. I think I'm joking. I'm not joking. Okay. Letter the questions will be easier. I don't know. I wouldn't want to do 100 questions. 100 questions in 120 minutes. I don't know. Fill out the truth table for X. I don't want to write 100 questions. I'll just tell you that much, my lord. Is one true? Are apples red, true or false? That's a tough one. There's green apples, you know what I mean? So, all right. Truth table time. So X and Y and Z. So the only time X and Y and with Z is true is when all three of them are true, right? Because for this part here, X and Y, that's true only if both X and Y are true, right? And the result of that is ANDed with Z, so all three have to be true. So the answer is going to be 1, and then all zeros for the rest. It's about as easy as truth tables get, right there. Yep. What if she makes the correct answers A to mess with us? I've done that before. I made all the answers like C, I think, except for one of them. And at the end of the midterm, like I had a student just sitting there. He's like, "I know the answer to this has to be C, but I don't think it is." It was fun. It was easy to grade too. There's that benefit too. C. If you say T instead of 1, would you get it wrong? Yeah. Just follow the pattern. Just follow the pattern. Cackles. Unlimited power. Okay. The morality of an action should be judged on intent, not on outcome. Which one of these 4 people would say that? So a consequentialist is somebody who judges a action based on the outcome. If you're a janitor at the State Department and you accidentally hit a button that launches nuclear weapons, that was an evil action. A deontologist cares intention. Okay. So deontology, is, and again, it's not like people are never looking at the other side of things, but a deontologist is really about you have a duty to do this, and was your intention to follow the duty or not? If you're trying to weasel around, Kant, famously said you should never lie, right? Well, what if you're trying to weasel around that by saying, "Yes, officer, I did not murder that person at 8:52 in the morning yesterday." What if you murdered them at 8:53 in the morning? You know what I mean? It's all about intention. So the midterm is on Friday, next class. Yeah. Okay. Tomorrow for you. That's funny. That is hilarious. I mean, if you guys wanted to open a day earlier, I guess we can do that too. So, just taking requests right now. So that's deontology. Yeah. I understand that what we may be saying may not technically be true, since it'll help our party gain more power. We will continue to say it, as it is a greater truth that we are right. That is Marxist theory of truth. Right? Very commonly used in politics, where politicians will say things they maybe even know are true, or at least they want to be true, and they say it because it benefits their party, right? Like, you know, every time there's been a presidential election, people have alleged voter fraud, you know, over the past 20 years, right? It's not just this recent thing with Trump. Like Hillary, you know, alleged that Trump wasn't elected properly, and when George W. Bush was elected in 2004, there's a study that came out from Berkeley proving that the voting machines had been hacked because they did a mathematical model, and Trump shouldn't have won in their model. Yeah, real life doesn't follow math sometimes, nerds. 2 hours, yeah, something like that. So you'll have 4 minutes per question. It's pretty good, I think. Even though I haven't seen it myself, I know everybody at work is saying bad things about me. Which cognitive biases are these? Always an excuse from the opposite side. Yeah, it hurts too much to look in the mirror. Deep reflecting on your mistakes is painful, so they don't do it. He's bullying us today. So you're just engaged in mind bullying. You think I'm bullying you, but I'm actually helping you on the midterm. Because by revealing that you don't know something, you can study for it and then do better on the actual midterm. This isn't the actual midterm. You're fine. None of this is going to count for anything. It is mind reading. It's also all or nothing. Everyone at work is saying bad things about me. It's all or nothing. Black and white fallacy. Either everybody's saying things about me or nobody. Okay. Do not call handicapped people handicapped. Call them handy-capable instead. What is that an example of? Sunk cost is when you've invested time or money into something, and so you want to stick with it, even though at this point it would be much better to abandon ship. Okay. This is framing. Yeah. And also, something like my handicapped friends really get annoyed by. Like, you're differently abled. No, my legs don't work. They get pissed. You're differently abled. Yeah. Well, the other midterm, the sample one, says we're 31 points. Will it affect your grade? No, it's a sample midterm. It's not a... No. It's in the don't grade category on the grade sheet. So you can get whatever you want on it. You can retake it. It will not affect your final grade. It's just a sample midterm. You can take it, test it, and it'll tell you what the answers are, and retake it if you want. Okay, and I'll probably throw up another one too as well. Okay, examples using cryptography. I don't know if we've talked really about cryptography, so we'll pass that. Person A, despite being ranked third in their division and none of the experts thinking so, I think the Edmonton Oilers are the best team in hockey right now. Person B, yeah, that's true. What theory of truth is person B using? So remember theories of truth, moral theories, fallacies, cognitive biases, social issues in computer science. I'll probably throw a question or two on Scratch up there as well. You were able to retake the practice midterm, yeah. And I'll probably put up another practice midterm too, just so you have more questions. So this is deflationary theory. Deflammatory. It's the opposite of inflammatory theory. Michael Jordan is the sexiest man alive. How do you know this is true? He was voted #1 by readers of People magazine. And it is confusing that there's an actor named Michael Jordan and Chicago Bulls sports star named Michael Jordan, but whatever. What theory of truth is person A using? They're using consensus theory. Okay. So consensus theory is like taking the ad populum fallacy and saying, no, that's right. Okay. So if everybody votes for Michael Jordan as being the sexiest man alive, well, then he's the sexiest man alive. It's been voted on. It's consensus theory. It's true. Doesn't bother you that either quantum mechanics is wrong or general relativity is wrong, which is also true. This is actually a true statement. We actually don't know how to resolve the conflicts between QM and GR. Nope, I can still do useful science at a small scale with QM and big scale with general relativity, so it doesn't bother me they conflict. I'll treat quantum mechanics as true when I need it, and I'll treat general relativity as true when I need it. What person of truth are they using? This is pragmatic. Yeah. It's like, I'm not concerned with all these like fancy theories of truth. It's just like what works. All right, let's do that. It's sometimes called the American theory of truth. I've only done a cursory Google search on Irenaeus, Bishop of Lyon in the 2nd century, but I'm confident I know more about his writings than you do. What is this? Dunning-Kruger. Yeah. And what's really funny is that I deliberately misspelled Dunning-Kruger on the slideshow. It's actually, it's not Kroger like the grocery store. There's a grocery store called Kroger's. It's Dunning-Kruger, like Freddy Krueger. I am an expert on Dunning-Kruger. All right, people typically seek out evidence that confirms their views and are skeptical of evidence that runs contrary to their views. So how do you escape from this? Well, you have to study it yourself, especially looking at stats. That's probably about it. What difficulty? I don't know. This is like a 3 or something like that, I think. Something like that. Let's see if I get that one right. 5 unanswered questions. Oh, well. So that is the sample midterm. We've got 8 minutes left. I want to talk a little bit more about parasocial networks because I read all of your essays last night. I was up till 4 o'clock in the morning reading your essays on parasocial networking. I could have just given everybody points who answered it, but what you guys say interests me. So I actually read every single one of them. Now, if you submitted it after 4 o'clock in the morning, I will admit I have not read it. So I was sleeping. So parasocial relationships, we talked a little bit about them last time, and one common mistake that I picked up from the essays is that a lot of you think like an internet friendship is a parasocial relationship, but it's not. Like I said, I became friends with this guy Kelly from Oregon. He goes by Chopin as his username, and we became friends. We were in the same group of people playing Quake, a video game, together. And when he came down to SoCal, we hung out, and he knew me and I knew him. Even though it's just on the internet, that's still a friendship. A parasocial relationship is when it's one way, like standing, for somebody, or like people that are like fans of like K-pop music, and it's not like the K-pop idol knows that they exist, right? It's not like when Herman Lee is like streaming a new 15-minute song that he composed. By the way, he's an amazing guy to watch stream. Herman Lee, he's one of the guitarists from Dragon Force. They will compose a brand new song in 15 minutes in the style of some other heavy metal band. It's fascinating. And so he's probably vaguely aware of like some of the people on his Twitch stream that are like, you should name the Amon Amarth song Beer Zerker. Okay, that's a good idea. I'll name it Berserker. Beer Zerker. But it's a one-way relationship. Okay, that's what defines parasocial relationships. That's the biggest mistake that I saw reading through your essays, is that an internet friendship, if they know you and you know them, if they would know your name or username if it's an internet friendship, then that's not a parasocial relationship. It's just it could be an acquaintance. It could be somebody you don't know very well. There's different levels to friendship. There's acquaintance and friend and close friend, and share two bodies, one mind. Different levels of friendship. But parasocial, it's entirely one way, and the way it comes about is because we spend so much time seeing them and interacting with them. We actually build a model of them in our mind. We tend to model other people in our mind because you can have a conversation like, what would happen if I talked to so and so and said this? Oh no, they wouldn't like that very much. Okay, maybe I shouldn't do it. So we build models of people in our minds, and that's why we sort of think of them as our friend, is my theory at least. Historians will do that for like George Washington. I talked to a historian once and gave him a quote that he'd never heard before. He's like, yeah, that does sound like something George would say. Just like, he thinks about it a little bit. Yeah, it does sound like something George would say. He's got a, so it's like a parasocial relationship with George Washington. It's not unhealthy in that case. Now, it's sports, it's really big. Oh, did you hear that Bob, broke his leg? What? Really? And it's just like they're part of their social network of friends, There's websites like Cameo where you can actually literally, Billy Boyd, he is one of the hobbits, from Lord of the Rings. You can pay actors to actually write you a message and make a little video clip and send it to you. So, a friend of mine went to one of the Lord of the Rings conventions, I don't know, 10 or 20 years ago. And she met Billy Boyd there, and they talked for a few minutes, and she's like, wow, he's a really great guy. And so, for her birthday this year, her one of her boyfriends spent money on Cameo, and Billy Boyd left her a message like, hey, long time no see. You remember that time at the convention when we met? But I don't think there's any illusion that I don't know. But so there's websites like this that can actually cater to your parasocial network. You can, if you pay money on a Twitch stream, like, hey, I want you to say Bill Kearney is awesome, and you drop $100 on, some streamer's stream, they will say Bill Kearney is awesome. I was thinking about for this class, like getting some celebrity, like, I don't know, Mike Tyson or something, to say, hey, what's up, Fresno State? Something like that. So so many celebrities do cameos now, yeah. And so that can feed a parasocial relationship. But Twitch is like very much that. Like that's, you throw money at them, and then they will be like, yo, your happy birthday, dude, or whatever. So that said, it's not always positive. So we didn't really talk much about the downsides last time. So there are some downsides. First of all, it can feed delusion. So some people have kind of a looser grip on reality, and you can feel like, oh man, this person really understands me. It'd be so cool if Joe Rogan just invited me into his studio. We just like drink whiskey and like hang out, and like I get that, but like I get that because it might very well be cool to hang out with Dave Chappelle, but like if you cross over that line into delusion, like they're actually my friend, like that's I think when it gets dangerous, and people that have low self-esteem or social anxiety oftentimes will use these YouTube streamers as a source of risk-free relationships, right? And by doing so, they avoid making relationships in real life, because relationships in real life can hurt you. It's the hedgehog's dilemma, Schopenhauer, right? Or Evangelion, if you've watched anime. The trouble with two hedgehogs loving each other is that the closer they get, the more they stab each other with the needles. And Schopenhauer uses this as an analogy for relationships in real life. To get close to somebody opens yourself up to being hurt, right? And so relationships like this, they can't hurt you. If you pay $180 to Billy Boyd to wish you a happy birthday, he will very happily wish you a happy birthday. He's not going to say, screw you, So, actual parasocial relationships exist. I mean, I don't know if they're actual, but yeah, a one-sided relationship absolutely does exist. Yeah. And then the even darker, it can lead you to exploitation, right? So people get addicted to their friend, and so they throw money at them, and then the friend will be like, "Hey, happy birthday, good to hear you." OnlyFans is built on this phenomenon. OnlyFans is a website, for those of you that don't know, which allows people of various occupations to have relationships with their followers. And so they will send you messages. I've never used it myself. I'm getting all this secondhand. But they don't sell fans, by the way. That's a different OnlyFans. There's a store that just sells fans called OnlyFans. But the what separates OnlyFans from most pornography sites is that most sites you pay money and you look at, you know, naked people. But with OnlyFans, they interact with you, and they pretend to be your friend, and they'll send you a message, "Good morning, sweetheart," or, from what I hear, and that's highly addictive to some people, right? So if you don't have that relationship in real life, then you're like, "Oh man, she really likes me," you know. And I've seen people say, "Oh, you know, I know it's probably not real, but I feel like we really have a connection," and they keep giving money away, right? Patreon's the same thing, right? Hey, support me on my Patreon. You know, I'll give you a shout out on my next YouTube video. So, yeah. So OnlyFans is literally built on the parasocial relationship phenomenon. That's literally the point of it. You know, there's plenty of places where you can give money to see naked people on the internet, right? But OnlyFans is not. That's not the selling point. The selling point is the parasocial relationship, right? So, if they interact with you on the daily, would they be able to recognize you if they heard your name? Yeah, and again, it's not like they can have like sort of like some vague awareness that you exist. Like Herman Lee, if somebody constantly comes up with good, you know, titles for his fake songs on Twitch, like you might go, "Oh, it's that guy. He's a funny guy." But he really doesn't know you, you know. And it's not like he devotes any mind space to like, "I wonder what this guy's like. Is he eating pizza right now?" No, it's a one way thing. And there's a possibility, a remote possibility, that Herman Lee's like, "Hey man, come over to my house, play guitars together." Yeah, but dubious. It seems like a bad idea to invite randos from the internet to come to your house. You know what I mean? So, I know a girl that only posted casual pictures because the real money was made in the DMs. Yeah, that and that's what I'm getting at. It's like that's the selling point of OnlyFans. It's not the nudity. It is the selling of a parasocial relationship. And whether or not you consider that financial exploitation depends on kind of your perspective and on the individual person. Like if you're aware that that's the nature of the beast, then you know it's not exploitation, right? If you're aware of it, it's not exploitation. You know, when I was in China, you know, people come up to you constantly trying to sell you things, and I'm like, "Look, I will just give you $75 to be my tour guide in Beijing today." And they're like, "Done." I'm like, "All right," because I know they're pretending like, "Oh, come over, you know, I'm going to sell artwork. My master wants to invite you over." No, I know all that's nonsense. I know you're trying to make a buck. I will offer you more money than your master is going to pay you all day to just like be my transit because you're speaking quite good English. Take me around Beijing. Show me where the good restaurants are. I will pay you $75. You know, if you're aware of the exploitation and you accept it, then it's not exploitation. You know, it's like, I know you're trying to get money out of me. I will give you money, but here's what I want. You know, and it actually worked out really well. The two people that were trying to exploit me for my money showed me good restaurants and translated for me. And at the end of the day, when I got on the train to go to Zhengzhou in central China, they went with me through the train station, past the gates, and found the right seat for me on the train and told the conductor, like, 这是我的朋友, you know, this is my friend, you know, take care of him, you know, this is his stop, he doesn't speak Chinese very well, make sure he gets off at this stop in Zhengzhou. And the conductor's like, "Yeah, okay, got it." And so, like, you know, I was like, I'm aware that this is a monetary transaction here, but, you know, if you're aware of it and you accept it, then it's not exploitation. So, yeah, sorry. Yeah, and then finally, if you have to go, you have to go. But finally, it can be very hard on the streamers. So a friend of mine started what she calls a cult online based on Baby Yoda. And when you have thousands of people following you, like it does weird things to your mentality. You know? It does weird things to your mentality. And yeah, it's not healthy necessarily. And you got thousands of people following you. Tens of thousands of people following you. One of the people who wrote the essay talked about a streamer that was talking about his mental health issues, and people were mocking him and clipping it and things like that. This is terrible. It's really quite terrible. People on the internet can be horrible, even to the people they like or something, you know. So yeah, and you know, this isn't a new phenomenon. Like, people have stalked celebrities before in the past, and that's because they feel they have a relationship with them. Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift, John Lennon was assassinated by one of his stans, basically. Dan Rather was attacked by actually, I don't know if Dan Rather was attacked by a stalker, but he was beaten by a guy who kept shouting, "What's the frequency, Kenneth?" and that turned into an REM song. So I just put that in there. I think it's probably not a good example, but Jodie Foster is a good example. She was stalked by this guy named John Hinckley Jr., who watched Taxi Driver, where Jodie Foster is playing a teenage prostitute, and he became fascinated with her. And the guy in Taxi Driver said that he wanted to kill Reagan, but couldn't, and so he shot a criminal instead and became a hero instead of a villain, something like that. And so Hinckley's like, well, I'm going to do what that guy couldn't do, and he developed a fascination with murdering Reagan in order to impress Jodie Foster. He was a student at Yale at the time, and he kept sending her letters, and she was ignoring them. And he wrote a letter saying, "Joni, I would abandon this idea of getting Reagan in a second if only I could win your heart." And the day that he wrote that letter, he went out and he shot Reagan and very nearly killed him. Like, very closely came close to murdering the President of the United States over one of these parasocial relationships. So, yeah, it's there is a downside, and I think the key dividing line for me is, don't let your fantasy become reality, right? Just because it feels like Joe Rogan's somebody that you can hang out with and drink a beer with doesn't mean he's actually your friend, right? He's still just a famous comedian, host of Fear Factor and a bunch of other stuff. He's not actually your friend. There's that. To me, there's a pretty clear dividing line that, as long as you understand, like, yeah, he seems like a cool dude, I enjoy watching his podcast or whatever, as long as you understand he's not actually in your house talking and being your friend, like, I think in general they're kind of okay, sort of, right? Like, I don't think that the historian who thinks of Washington as his friend, I don't see that as a downside, you know what I mean? So Teddy Roosevelt got shot, and continued his speech. Yeah. Reagan, though, got rushed to the hospital, and he was within a minute of dying. If he had gone there any later, he would have died. And John Hinckley Jr. shot Brady, and that's where the Brady Bill gun control was named after, because he was paralyzed and later died from John Hinckley Jr. He killed a Social Security Secret Service guy. And he's coming out on bail next year. So 2022, John Hinckley Jr. apparently has been approved for parole. So, yeah, true story. So that's it for today. Yeah, there's lots of cognitive biases, but I think it's good for today. So study for the midterm. Midterm will start at the end of class on Friday. Come to class. We're going to have a regular lecture. If you have any questions from the sample midterms, we can go over them then as well. But, yeah, we're just going to have a regular lecture on Friday. So, and then you'll have from 11 o'clock on Friday through 10 o'clock on Monday to take the midterm. Okay? All right. Peace out, everyone. Thanks.